Let's deep dive into a mind-blowing YouTube podcast created by artificial intelligence, where you will hear conversations by two AI agents in a way you've never imagined before. This isn't just a podcast, it's a journey into the future, crafted by AI, designed for you. Ready to have your mind blown? Let's begin.
You know, everyone says physics is hard.
Right.
Well, Richard Feynman, he basically said, it's just the universe playing a game with rules, and I'm going to teach you how to win.
I love that.
We're diving into his book,
Yes.
6 Easy Pieces, to learn how he breaks it all down.
Yeah.
Get ready to see the world in a whole new way, because we're about to unlock some serious knowledge.
It's true.
Okay, so let's start with the building blocks of
Yeah, let's
everything. Atoms.
Yes.
Feynman's first piece, Atoms in Motion, shows us that the universe at its tiniest level is constantly buzzing.
Yeah.
He's saying that literally everything around us, from your phone to the air we breathe, is made up of these teeny tiny particles that are always jiggling and bouncing around.
Yeah. And it's so cool because this seemingly simple concept of atoms in motion actually explains so much.
Okay, so explain it to me.
Okay, so for example, heat, right? Heat isn't some mysterious energy force.
Right.
It's literally just the kinetic energy, so the energy of motion of all those atoms. The faster they move, the hotter something feels.
Hold on, so you're telling me that when my hand gets close to a hot stove,
Yeah.
it's not some magical heat flowing into it,
Right.
but trillions of tiny atoms in the stove burner.
Yeah.
Going wild and bumping into the atoms in my skin, making them jiggle faster, too. That's actually kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and amazing at the same time. Right.
Right, amazing.
It all boils down to that energy transfer happening at the atomic level.
Wow.
Feynman also talks about diffusion, like when you drop ink into water and it spreads out. That's just ink molecules randomly bumping into water molecules until they spread evenly throughout the container.
Mind blown.
Right.
So it's not some special property of ink or water. It's just those tiny atoms in action again.
Right.
Wow.
It's amazing. It applies to even how our bodies work.
Yeah.
Think about how we get energy from food.
Okay.
That's metabolism.
Yeah.
And it's governed by the same principles of atomic motion and energy transfer.
So my lunch is basically just a bunch of atoms ready to collide with my body's atoms and get things moving. It's crazy to think that such a simple concept can explain so much.
It's crazy.
Feynman was clearly onto something here.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got these tiny atoms in perpetual motion,
Yeah.
but what keeps them from just flying apart?
That's where the big daddy of forces comes in. Gravity.
Ooh.
Gravity, it's this invisible force that pulls everything together.
Right, gravity is what keeps our feet on the ground, but it also does a whole lot more than that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Gravity is the reason planets stay in orbit around the sun, why the tides ebb and flow, why galaxies hold their shape.
Wow.
It's this incredible force that acts on everything with mass, no matter how big or small.
So the bigger something is, the stronger its gravitational pull. That's why the sun, which is huge, keeps all the planets in our solar system spinning around it.
Exactly. You got it.
Wow.
Feynman does a great job explaining this using Newton's law of gravitation. But then he takes us even deeper, introducing us to Einstein's theory of general relativity, which gives us a completely different way of understanding gravity.
Okay, Einstein's theory is where things start to get super complicated, right? Wasn't he talking about warping space-time and stuff?
He was.
Yeah.
Einstein basically said, Newton, you were close, but space-time is more like a giant waterbed.
Okay.
If you put a bowling ball on a waterbed, it creates a dip. Anything you roll near that dip is going to curve toward the bowling ball.
Right.
And that's kind of how mass warps space-time, causing objects to move along these curved paths.
Whoa. That analogy actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So gravity isn't really a force pulling things together.
Right.
It's just the shape of space-time telling objects how to move. That's wild.
It is wild, and one of the coolest pieces of evidence for Einstein's theory is how starlight bends around the sun during a solar eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Because the sun is so massive, its gravity warps the space around it, causing the light from distant stars to bend as it passes by.
So it's like the sun is acting as a giant magnifying glass in space. That's some serious cosmic magic. It really shows you the power of physics to explain these incredible phenomena.
It really does. And speaking of incredible phenomena,
Yeah.
Feynman goes on to discuss how physics isn't just a field of study on its own, but rather the foundation for so many other sciences.
So physics is like the bedrock upon which all other scientific knowledge is built.
Exactly. Take chemistry, for instance.
Okay.
The behavior of molecules, how they react and form new substances, is ultimately governed by the principles of quantum mechanics.
Right.
A branch of physics that deals with the tiny world of atoms and subatomic particles.
Okay. That makes sense. So chemistry is basically just physics on a smaller scale.
Pretty much.
What about biology? How does physics play into the world of living things?
Think about something as basic as how nutrients and oxygen are transported through our bodies.
Okay.
It's driven by processes like diffusion and heat transfer, both rooted in physics. Or consider photosynthesis, where plants use sunlight to create energy. Again, a process governed by the laws of physics.
So without physics, we wouldn't even have biology as we know it. It's like a chain reaction of knowledge.
It is, precisely.
Wow.
Feynman's point is that understanding physics allows us to see the underlying mechanisms driving processes across different fields.
Yeah.
It reveals a deeper level of unity in nature,
Right.
showing us that everything is interconnected.
This is seriously eye-opening. I'm starting to see the world in a whole new way, thanks to Feynman.
Me too. I think we all are.
Okay, so we talked about atoms, gravity, and how physics underlies pretty much everything.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Well, next we'll delve into one of the most fundamental and mind-blowing concepts in physics, the conservation of energy.
Okay, this is where things get really profound, right? The idea that energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another.
Exactly. And Feynman uses a simple analogy to illustrate this.
Okay, I love analogies, so tell me.
Okay, imagine a child playing with a set of blocks. Even if the child hides some blocks, they haven't disappeared. They've simply been moved to a different location.
I love that analogy. It makes this abstract concept so much easier to grasp.
Right.
So just like those blocks, energy never vanishes. It just changes forms.
Precisely. Think about a ball falling to the ground.
Okay.
As it falls, its potential energy, the energy it has because of its position, is converted into kinetic energy, the energy of motion.
Right.
But the total amount of energy always stays the same.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Correct.
And this principle applies to everything in the universe, right? From tiny atoms to giant stars. It's like the universe keeps a perfect energy ledger.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever lost, just moved around or transformed.
Absolutely. The conservation of energy is one of the most fundamental principles in physics.
Wow.
It governs everything from the smallest subatomic interactions to the grand movements of galaxies.
That's amazing. And speaking of galaxies, I'm curious to hear more about this mind-bending world of quantum mechanics. But I think we need a moment to let all of this sink in first.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground, from the constant motion of atoms to the mind-blowing concept of gravity as the curvature of space-time.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting.
It is.
Feynman has a way of making physics feel less like a textbook subject and more like a thrilling adventure.
I like that.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into 6 easy pieces, exploring the strange and wonderful world of quantum mechanics.
Can't wait.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were about to jump into the quantum realm.
Yes.
Where things get a little fuzzy and our everyday intuition kind of goes out the window.
I mean, even after hearing about those atoms constantly bouncing around,
Right.
quantum mechanics always felt like the really out there part of physics.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely a shift in thinking.
Yeah.
Quantum mechanics is all about understanding that at the subatomic level, like we can't know exactly where a particle is or what it's doing.
Okay.
Instead, we talk about probabilities. The chances of a particle being in a particular state.
So it's less about knowing for sure
Yeah.
and more about understanding the odds. Kind of like rolling dice.
Yeah.
You can't predict the exact number, but, there's a certain probability for each outcome.
That's a great analogy. It highlights this fundamental change in perspective when we enter the quantum world.
Okay.
Instead of fixed laws, we have probabilities and something called wave functions
Okay.
that describe the possible states of particles.
Wait, wave functions? That sounds complicated.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky.
What are those exactly?
Think of wave functions like mathematical descriptions of all the possibilities for a particle.
Okay.
It's not that the particle is a wave,
Right.
but the math treats it like one to predict how it might behave.
Uh-huh.
It's like the particle is saying, I could be here or I could be there. Here's the likelihood of each option.
So instead of a particle having one defined location,
Right.
it's more like a cloud of possibilities. And the wave function helps us map out those possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even though it seems uncertain,
Yeah.
there's still an underlying order and structure to it all.
Okay.
These probabilities are guided by specific equations,
Okay.
like Schrodinger's equation.
Okay, now you're just using big words to scare me. All right. What's so special about Schrodinger's equation?
Well, think of it like this. Schrodinger's equation is like a roadmap for how these fuzzy quantum states change over time. It's math, yeah,
Right.
but it helps physicists predict what these weird particles might do.
Okay, that makes it a little less scary. So even in this crazy quantum world, there are still rules?
Yeah,
Just different rules than the ones we're used to.
right. And Feynman was amazing at explaining these rules in a way that didn't require a PhD in physics to understand.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did he tackle something as mind-bending as quantum mechanics? Did he use those analogies he was famous for?
He did, absolutely.
Okay.
Remember the double slit experiment we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Where electrons act like both particles and waves?
Mm-hmm.
To explain the wave-like behavior,
Yeah.
Feynman used the example of ripples in a pond.
Oh, yeah, the one where electrons go through two slits at the same time somehow?
That's the one.
Right.
Imagine dropping 2 pebbles into a pond at the same time.
Okay.
The ripples from each pebble will interfere with each other,
Yeah.
creating a pattern of peaks and troughs, right?
Right, the waves kind of crash into each other and make a new pattern.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And just like those water waves interfere,
Mm-hmm.
the electrons passing through the 2 slits also create an interference pattern,
Wow.
as if they were waves too.
So Feynman used something as simple as ripples in a pond
Yeah.
to explain one of the most mysterious phenomena in quantum mechanics.
Exactly.
It's pretty brilliant.
It is. He was a master at finding everyday examples that could illuminate even the most complex ideas.
Yeah,
And that's what made him such a great teacher.
right.
He knew that learning isn't about memorizing equations. It's about understanding the core concepts.
That makes 6 easy pieces so much more than just a physics textbook.
It does.
It's like a guide to understanding the universe in a whole new way.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Feynman intended.
Yeah.
He believed everyone should have the opportunity to appreciate the beauty and elegance of physics,
Yeah.
even without a scientific background.
It's like he's opening a door to this secret world that most people never get to see.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
We've been talking about atoms, gravity, quantum mechanics, things that seem so abstract,
Yeah.
but they're actually all around us, shaping our everyday lives.
I'm starting to see that it's like learning a new language, the language of physics.
Yeah.
That lets you understand the hidden machinery of the world.
You got it. And that understanding can be incredibly empowering.
Uh-huh.
For example, think about the conservation of energy.
Okay.
It's not just a law of physics.
Yeah.
It has huge implications for how we live our lives,
Right.
how we use resources, how we think about climate change.
Oh, I see what you mean. If we understand that energy can't be created or destroyed, just transformed, then we have to be more mindful of how we're using it, right?
Exactly. It encourages us to think about things like renewable energy sources and sustainable practices.
It's like having a superpower, the ability to see the flow of energy all around us and understand how our actions impact that flow.
And that brings us back to one of Feynman's key messages,
Okay.
the interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah.
From the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, everything is connected through this web of relationships.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? That we're all just a tiny part of this vast interconnected universe, but it also makes you feel kind of special.
It does.
Like you're part of something much bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And that understanding can inspire us to live in a way that respects the balance of nature and the interconnectedness of all things.
So we've talked a lot about the big ideas in 6 easy pieces. Yeah. But I'm curious, what was Feynman like as a person? Was he this serious super genius type? Or was there more to him than that?
I would say there was more to him. He's definitely a brilliant physicist. Yeah. But he was also known for his playful personality and his ability to make science fun.
Yeah.
He loved to play the bongos.
Oh, wow.
He cracked jokes.
Okay.
And he was always curious about the world around him.
That's so cool. It makes him seem more human. You know, like even someone as brilliant as Feynman wasn't just a brain in a jar.
Right.
He was a real person with a sense of humor and a passion for life.
Exactly. He embodied the spirit of curiosity and wonder that he hoped to inspire in others.
This has been such an incredible journey so far.
It has.
I feel like I'm starting to see the world through Feynman's eyes, noticing the physics at play in everyday life.
And that's what makes 6 Easy Pieces so special. It's
Yeah.
not just about learning physics.
Yeah.
It's about seeing the world with new eyes, with a sense of curiosity and awe.
Wow.
But before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
We're actually coming up on the end of this part of our deep dive.
Already. I feel like we could talk about Feynman and his ideas for hours.
I know, right? But don't worry, we'll be back soon to wrap things up. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the broader implications of Feynman's work
Okay.
and how his ideas continue to shape our understanding of the universe today.
Can't wait. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into 6 easy pieces. It's been quite a journey with Richard Feynman, exploring everything from tiny atoms.
Yeah, to the vast universe.
It really has been. And, it's amazing how Feynman could take these complex ideas and make them feel almost understandable.
Right.
Like, I actually feel like I'm starting to grasp some of this stuff.
Yeah, that was his gift.
Yeah.
He wasn't just brilliant, he was a fantastic communicator.
Right.
He wanted everyone to experience that joy of understanding how the world works,
Right.
even if they didn't have a physics degree.
I think that's what's so inspiring about 6 Easy Pieces.
Yeah.
It's not just a book about physics, it's a book about curiosity.
Yeah.
About questioning the world around us and never losing that sense of wonder.
Absolutely. And I think in today's world,
Yeah.
where we're bombarded with information from all sides,
Right.
that kind of critical thinking is more important than ever.
Right.
Feynman reminds us to challenge assumptions, to look for evidence,
Yeah.
and to always be asking why.
It's like he's giving us a set of mental tools to navigate the world, to sift through the noise and find the underlying truths. And those truths, as we've seen, can be pretty mind-blowing.
They can be. Remember the conservation of energy.
Yes.
It's not just a law of physics.
Yeah.
It's a principle that has ripple effects across every aspect of our lives.
Right. It makes you realize that even small actions can have big consequences, like how choosing to walk instead of drive can impact our energy consumption and contribute to a more sustainable future.
Exactly. Understanding physics empowers us to make more informed decisions, to see the interconnectedness of things, and to appreciate the delicate balance of our planet.
It's also a humbling reminder that we're not the center of the universe.
Right.
We're just one small part of this incredibly vast and complex system.
Yeah. And that realization, as you said, can be both humbling and inspiring.
Yeah.
It encourages us to approach the world with a sense of awe and respect, recognizing that we're all connected from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy.
I think that's a beautiful way to sum up the essence of 6 Easy Pieces.
Yeah.
And the lasting impact of Feynman's work. It's not just about understanding the laws of physics, it's about embracing a way of thinking.
Yeah.
A way of seeing the world that is both intellectually stimulating and deeply meaningful.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yes.
I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought from Feynman himself.
Ooh, I love his quotes. Which one are you thinking of?
The most important thing is to not stop questioning.
Yeah.
Curiosity has its own reason for existing.
I love that. It's a reminder that learning is a lifelong journey. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much more there is to discover.
So true.
Well, I think on that note, it's time for us to say goodbye. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the mind of Richard Feynman.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and those questions coming on.